Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win. We're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we are looking at the Spirit of the Arachyr set, which I always felt like it should be Arachnid or something, but not. I guess not. Alright guys, so let's get right into it. Spirit of Arachyr. 2-piece bonus. Summon a permanent spider queen who leaves behind webs that deal 4,000% weapon damage over 5 seconds and slow enemies. The spider queen is commanded to move to where you cast corpse spiders. Don't pay attention to this corpse spider part, we're not using that. 4-piece bonus. Hex gains the effect of Toad of Hungerness rune. After summoning a Toad of Hungerness, you gain 50% damage reduction and heal for 10% of your maximum life per second for 15 seconds. 6-piece bonus. The damage of your creature skills is increased by 17,500%. Creature skills are corpse spiders, plague of toads, firebats, locus swarm, hex, and piranhas. Alright, so on this build, we're going to also be using Bakaloo's Jungle Wraps, as you see here. Firebats deal 266% increased damage to enemies affected by Locus Swarm and Piranhas, which we are using definitely on this build. We're also going to be using Sacred Harvester. Soul Harvest now stacks up to 10 times, which gives us more damage. We're using Henry's Prequisition. The first time an enemy hits you, reduce that damage 64% and charm your enemies. Lakumba's Ornament, reduce all damage taken by 6% for each stack of Soul Harvest that we have. So that's very important. We're also going to be using a Traveler's Pledge in conjunction with the Compass Rose. 2-piece bonus. While moving, damage taken is reduced up to 50%. While standing still, damage is dealt is increased to 100%. We're going to be using Ring of Emptiness because we are using the Locus Swarm here, which is helpful. For the skills, Piranhas, Pirando, Firebats, Cloud of Bats. We also want to run Spirit Walk, Honored Guest, Soul Harvest, Languish. We also want to use Hex, Jinx, even though it's not going to matter too much. Locus Swarm, Pestilence, always the way to go with Locus Swarm, in my personal opinion. For the passive, Spirit Vessel. We also want to run Grave Injustice. We also want to run Creeping Death, as well as Confidence Ritual. In the Kanai's Cube, Staff of Cleopatra, Mantle of Channeling, and Conventional Elements is the way you want to go. This is what my Paragon looks like currently for this. And for the follower, I don't have a follower that's actually really built very well. But you would want to run a Flavor of Time, a Nemesis Bracers, a Broken Crown, a Gold Skin. Everything else is kind of filler when it comes to the follower. Unfortunately, because we don't really have a follower really maxed out and properly optimized, we might suffer a little bit in clear times, but you're not going to really need to worry too much. Your follower is not going to be optimized at the beginning of Season 24. This is the starter set for Season 24 of the Witchdoctor, so if you are playing Witchdoctor, this is the armor you get from Hadrian's Gift. Alright, so when we get to the Rift Guardian, first thing we want to do is Piranhas. Then activate your Firebats. It will take out the target. Also cast your Pestilence. Anytime that you see a large area of mobs, go Soul Harvest. You want to try to get 10 stacks as fast as possible. But basically what you're going to want to do is Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats. When you do that particular rotation, enemies tend to pop very fast. So keep that in mind. Alright, Piranhas, Firebats. You see they implode pretty quick. Piranhas, Firebat. Alright, here we go. Piranhas, Firebat. Piranhas, Firebat. Piranhas, Firebat. Or you can go Locus Swarm, Firebats, either way. Alright, here we go. Locus Swarm, Firebats. Locus Swarm, Firebats. Alright, Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats. As you see, that increases the damage of Firebats. So you always want to make sure you either are using a Locus Swarm or a Pirando Firebats to type of rotation going on. Alright, always make sure that you can get 10 stacks of Soul Harvest. That way you have increased amount in intelligence, which is very important for this particular build. Whenever possible, also use your Hex, because your Hex will give you damage reduction, which is kind of very important for this particular armor, because it can take a hit. Unnecessary Piranhas, as you saw there, Firebats. Piranhas, Firebats, Locus Swarm. Locus Swarm, Piranhas, Firebats. Just definitely, you'll feel it out. You'll get the use for it. Just make sure, as long as you're attacking with either a Locus Swarm, Piranha, you're going to be doing the maximum amount of damage possible with your Firebat. This armor is not super fast. It's definitely a more like a push variant. Okay, Soul Harvest there, Pirando, Locus Swarm, Firebats. Did you see it pops? Those are the damage rotations where you want to go. Alright, Locus Swarm and we the Firebats there, Locus Swarm, Firebat. Locus Swarm, Piranhas, Firebats. As you see, everything's going to kind of implode there. Remember, the Locus Swarms and the Piranhas are also increased damage as well because of what we're doing. So this is why this works so well. Ironically, Corpse Spider is kind of a useless skill. The Spider Queen's there just to kind of help out a little bit, you could say, but it's not. It's more like show than it is really going to be doing a lot of damage for us in this particular build. Everything's coming from the Firebats, the Piranhas, and the Locus Swarms working in tandem. Alright, here we go. Locus Swarm, Firebats. Locus Swarm, Firebats. Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats. Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats. As you see, That's always, you want to make sure you're casting those things, because if you just go Firebats, you're not going to do a lot of damage. Like I said, guys, this is not the fastest armor. This is more like a push armor. In terms of Witchdoctor, this is an armor that's somewhere mid to low tier, I would call it. It's not bad. With a lot of optimization, you can kind of get a little bit more damage out of it, but it's going to fall off significantly as you go higher up in the graves. Case in point there, I'm Soul Harvest at 10 stacks, and all I'm getting is like an extra 400 damage out of my Witchdoctor, which usually, if I Soul Harvest on something like my Mundanuga set, I'd be up in the 3200 range, right, with damage. Okay, here we go. Locus Swarm, Firebats, Locus Swarm, Firebats, Locus Swarm, Firebats. Always try to get a Hex off when you can, because you want the damage reduction as well. Okay, Locus Swarm, Firebats, Locus Swarm, Firebats. Let's see, Locus Swarm, Locus Swarm, Locus Swarm, Firebats, Piranhas, Firebats, there we go. And that's what the damage rotations, guys. You want to make sure you're always at least casting a Locus Swarm or a Piranhas with your Firebats, so that it's got an increased amount of damage going on. Locus Swarm, Firebats there. Here we go, Locus Swarm, Piranhas, Firebat. Always kind of want to use your Piranhas to push things to the center, so that then you can Firebats them away. That's kind of what's the good thing about the Piranhas particular skill that we're using for the Witchdoctor here. Alright, here we go again. We're going to go Locus Swarm, Firebats. Alright, Hex, Piranhas, Firebats, Locus Swarm. There's a Locus Swarm mixed up in that too. If you see you're going to take an unnecessary death and you have time to avoid it, I would recommend going Spirit Walk, because you go into the Uniform Land, which gives you a momentary invulnerability window for a little bit, not a lot. So Locus Swarm, Piranhas, Firebats there. Now, in terms of optimization, where exactly would you be optimizing for this armor? Alright, well, for starters, we are using Captain Crimson on this build. So because we are using Captain Crimson on this build, my recommendation is putting cooldown reduction... Oh wait, are we using Captain Crimson? Yeah, we are using Captain Crimson. My recommendation would be to put cooldown reduction wherever possible. So wherever you can find cooldown reduction, definitely invest it here, because the more cooldown reduction you have, the more damage you will have. Then, after you get your cooldown reduction, I would recommend on your helm, crit hit chance 6.0%. I would recommend on your gloves, crit hit damage 50%, crit hit chance 6.0%. I would recommend at least an attack speed of 6.0%, but preferably if you could get 8.0%, it will help tremendously in terms of pushing this armor to attack a little bit faster. There's more optimization I'll talk about. Let me take care of the record. Alright, Piranhas, Jinx, Locus Swarm, and now we'll go Firebats and it implodes. That's basically what you want to do against a Rift Guardian. Alright. Now, like I was saying before, in terms of optimization, what else would you want to do? Well, anywhere you can power up your Piranhas or Piranhas to 15%, I would recommend it, because you use them a lot in this particular build. Anywhere that you can power up your Locus Swarms by 15%, because it is a big crutch on this build and it helps power things up, I would recommend trying to get it. But you can't sacrifice our optimization. Like, you can't sacrifice cooldown reduction to power up our things. Wherever you can power up your Firebats, that's definitely what you would probably want to power up the most with 15%, because Firebats are the main source of damage here. Everything else helps get you to that increased damage. So, you know, really first I would recommend looking if you can power up the Firebats, where you're not sacrificing from cooldown reduction or cost reduction or crit hit chance or crit hit ratio or attack speed. Then from there, you then start like looking, can you power up your your Locus Swarm and your Piranhas? If you still have room on there, yeah, definitely, but don't sacrifice very important optimization. Okay, same strategy as before. Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats. Like I say, this is a slow push build. Push builds mean you just kind of push your way towards completing the Great Array. You're not really trying to go for speed runs. If you're looking for armor that's going to get you high leaderboard placement, this is definitely not the armor you want to be taking a look at for the Witchdoctor. If you want high leaderboard placement, you need to take a look at the Mundanuga armor, because even though it got nerfed significantly in Season 23 of Diablo, it still performs significantly higher and is a higher tier of play than this armor. This armor is like mid, borderline, I'd say borderline mid to closer to low tier in terms of builds. It's not really because of the armor, it's just that it can't only do so much with 17,500%. And in order to get this to go super high up in the Grey Rifts, you would have to invest a lot of resources. That still won't give you the type of damage output that you would normally see on better armors like Mundunugu. Jade Harvest, even, in particular, is way better than that. This is like mid to borderline low tier. Like, this is mid tier. Like, I think the only armors that are really worse than this is Helltooth Zombie Bears is a lot slower. And then I would say also under that is Zumanisa, which is just the Fetish Army build. That armor is just mostly unworkable. But this one's kind of interesting. I feel like there should be a better 2-piece bonus for this. I feel like they should kind of give the Spider Queen a little bit more to work with, because unless you're using the spider webs to be able to target where she's going to, she's kind of just stuck there, kind of like a pet that can kind of do damage but doesn't do a whole bunch for you. So it'd be nice to see them do something different. This armor could use a little bit of a rework in how it works, in my personal opinion. That's just me. So yeah, like if you're trying to go leaderboard placement, Mundunugu, then like Jade Harvest. Those are really the only 2 Witchdoctors that do extremely well. Okay, Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats, as you saw there. Wherever you can, and you see Elite Pack, make sure that you go Piranhas, Locus Swarm, and then Firebats. You want Piranhas to just kind of keep them all together, centralized. Also keep in mind that you always have to keep an eye on your Soul Harvest. You want always 10 stacks of Soul Harvest, because 10 stacks of Soul Harvest means you're doing an increased amount of damage. So there's a lot of things going on with this build, which is what I'm saying. So this is one of those ones where it's very hard to master, but when you can master it, it's actually very unique and an interesting style of play that you don't normally see from the Witchdoctor, because you could use a lot of skills that you normally wouldn't run or be able to find in conjunction with each other. Alright, so here we go. Piranhas. We're going to go Firebats. I also had Locus Swarmed in there in case you were wondering. Here we go again. Locus Swarm, Firebats. Locus Swarm, Firebats. That's not a big target. Piranhas, Firebats. Only because I keep them in the group. Let's check them out. Alright, I'm going to go Spirit Walk there a little bit so I can get back some resources that way. Alright, let's look around. Always keep your eye on your Soul Harvest, because there's going to be times when you need to Soul Harvest, which is kind of good, because like if you Piranha, you can then go Soul Harvest in a big group anyway, usually. Alright, so in terms of Season 24, how exactly would you be going about making this build if you're just starting your seasonal journey? Well, if you're new to Diablo Season 20, new to Diablo Seasons in general, basically this is the Star Set armor. Star Set is basically a Hadrian's Gift. Basically, when you complete your Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and Chapter 4 seasonal objectives, which are called Season Journeys, every chapter you will get something called the Hadrian's Gift. Hadrian's Gift has 2 pieces of whatever your starter set armor is. So, for the Witchdoctor, this time around, it's the Spirit of Arachyr set. So, because it's this set, like I said, when you complete your Chapter 2 seasonal journey, you get a Hadrian's Gift that will give you 2 pieces of the armor. Then, when you complete the Chapter 3 seasonal journey, you get the other 2 pieces. Then, when you complete Chapter 4, you get the final 2 pieces. You are always guaranteed in a seasonal journey to get a full set of the armor. You are not guaranteed Ancient Legendary pieces to drop in that, although they can. You are 100% not guaranteed to get Primal Ancient Legendary things to drop from your Hadrian's Gift. The reason for that is because in order for a seasonal character to have access to Primal Ancient Legendaries to drop, you have to complete a Greater Rift 70 solo. And the way the seasonal journey is kind of laid out for you, it would be significantly impossible for you to complete a Greater Rift 70 before you got your Hadrian's Gift. And if you saved your Hadrian's Gift to open till after you got your seasonal your Greater Rift 70 complete just to try to get Primal Ancient Legendaries, that would be kind of foolish, because that's just like a waste of time. That's why people don't do stuff like that. Alright, so then the next thing is, how would you get the rest of the pieces here? Alright, for Sacred Harvester, I recommend just buying a bunch of rare daggers and then upgrading them, because you have a higher chance of running into the Sacred Harvester that way, as opposed to like 2 or 3 hours of Greater Rift grinding, where you're doing like Greater Rifts in 2 to 3 minute clear times. Because the problem is, Sacred Harvester, there's a wide pool of ceremonial blades that you could get for the Witchdoctor, ironically, and of those, Sacred Harvester, particularly an ancient rare version of that, is dropped very, very seldomly. So it's better to try to upgrade rare daggers that you get with the Kanai's Cube, but you have to use a lot of Death Breath. Alright, that was Greater Rift 65, 5 minute and 20 second clear time. I am also going to do a Greater Rift 70 and 75 for those of you who are asking, perhaps, in the comments. Alright, or just asking while you're watching it. Alright, so same strategy as before. Now we have to rely a lot heavier now on Piranhas, Locus Swarms, and then Firebats. Obviously, when you can, make sure you Soul Harvest. When you Soul Harvest, you want to get that 10 stack as fast as possible, because it will allow you to do an increased amount of damage, which is very vital for this particular build. So again, here we go. Soul Harvest. Did I Soul Harvest? Yeah, I Soul Harvest here. Okay. So again, the rotation is going to be Piranhas when you see large areas of groups. Case in point there. Then you go Locus Swarm. Again, if you can go Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats, definitely do that. Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebat. Because when you use the Firebats and the Locus Swarm and the Piranhas in conjunction with the Firebats, you're going to do increased damage thanks to the belt. Now, how would you get the offhand? Same strategy as before. The offhand Henry's Perquisition is actually kind of easier to get from Greater Rift grinding. However, if you wanted to and you had a lot of resources, what you could do is you could also buy offhands for that and upgrade rare. You will have a high chance of getting a Henry's Perquisition. It's easier to get the Henry's Perquisition just through Greater Rift grinding, where you do a 2 or 3 hour session, where you pick a Greater Rift that you can complete. Usually, I'd say anything you can complete within 3 to 4 minutes, you just pick that level, and you just constantly run that level for 2 hours straight of Greater Rift grind. And you'll probably run into, maybe you got lucky to run into a Sacred Harvester, but you definitely will run into a Henry's Perquisition that way. Now, for Captain Crimson, it's a little bit more difficult, because Captain Crimson requires you to have the plans for it. So what you would need to do is you would have to do a whole bunch of bounties. The reason for that is that Captain Crimson's plans drop, usually from goblins, but they also can drop from Tyrael Caches, because Tyrael Caches drop plans. So the more bounties that you complete, the more it is in your benefit for you, because not only are you getting materials that you need for Kanai's Cube to help with this particular set, but you also will get the plans that you need for Captain Crimson. That's how you would get Captain Crimson. Captain Crimson is kind of important because it's able to take this armor a little step further from the regular particular build. So that's kind of what you would focus on next. Then from there, what you want to focus on subsequently afterwards is I would recommend then looking at your stats, using Death Breaths to reroll stats where you can. Definitely try to get the cooldowns where possible. Do a lot of Greater Rift grinding because, like I said, chances of you running into ancient legendary pieces or getting them on right from the get-go for this starter build would be kind of hard for you to do. My recommendation, honestly, I wouldn't invest time into augmenting this armor to try to see how high you could go in the Greater Rift. I would use this to kind of get you to your seasonal 4 chapter journey, well, past your seasonal chapter 4. I'd use this to grind Greater Rifts till I saw all of the Mundunugu set drop, and then I would swap immediately to the Mundunugu set, and then I would work on that build. I have not covered the Mundunugu set for Season 24 of Diablo as of yet. I will be covering that in the not too distant future. However, since there has been no changes from Season 24 to Season 23 for the Mundunugu set, you can look at my playlist for the Season 23 video, and all the information for that still applies because nothing for that build has changed. You know, it's still the same thing. They haven't fixed or buffed it. So you could look at that, and that will pretty much be able to kind of point you in the direction of where you want to go with that armor. I recommend going to that armor to complete your seasonal journey all the way through for Diablo Season 24. For those of you who are probably wondering what you get, I'm actually kind of happy about that because for this season, the Chapter 4 reward is an old pair of wings that was the seasonal journey reward for Season 12 of Diablo. They're a nice angelic set of wings, which can go great on certain, like, transmogs that you could do for your armors where you change the look of them. So you could kind of play a little bit of fashion Diablo if you wanted to. Let's say, like, your Crusader in particular. Like, I put on Valor, those wings. Right. Rift Guardian, very simple. Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats, usually will implode fast. This is obviously that you've been maintaining your 10 stacks of Soul Harvest. So, definitely keep that in mind. But I would recommend Mundunugu. If you can't get your hands on Mundunugu because the pieces don't drop and you see something like Jade Harvest, Jade Harvest takes you a little bit further. Really, I would say you grind till you find Mundanuga and then you switch, because that's really probably the only S tier armor, really, truly, for Diablo 3. And it's a, it's gotten nerfed, but it's still so much better than what we have currently to work with. So definitely, I would recommend kind of going that route. We didn't get any good loot there, so that's quite unfortunate. I'm still picking up some stuff because I'm just like, I do salvage a lot of stuff anyway. Alright, so this was greater of 70. I'm just leveling this one up randomly. This doesn't have a point for any of the builds that I'm working on currently. It's just I want to augment pieces onto armors for future videos, which is why I do this. So payment, no pension. The gems that you want to run on here, Bane of the Trap, Bane of the Stricken, Goak of Swiftness. Those are the ways to go with this particular build, just in case you're wondering that. Alright, let's see what the clear time was on here. Well fought. Alright, this was 4-minute clear time, greater of 70. I will do a greater of 75, and then I will bid you adieu for this particular starter set. Now, in terms of what the tier list will look like for Season 24, right now I'd say you're going to see a lot of Chantodom Veer and high leaderboard placement in the beginning. I also think you're going to see a pretty decent amount of Immortal Kings builds running the Hoda version of it, because that's a very powerful build in its own right. I would say of the classes that you can play in Diablo 3 this season, the Wizard and the Barbarian have the best starter sets. Then I would say Seeker of Light Crusader is mid-tier. I would put maybe Spirit of Arachyr as a slow mid-tier. Actually, I wouldn't even put mid-tier. I put this at low tier, honestly. I take that back. I would put Uliana as a slow push build in the mid-tier as well. And, then we got the Demon Hunter set, which, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, is the Shadow, which is actually a pretty good set, which I would probably put not at mid-tier. I would put that a little higher tier. It's not S-tier, but that, really Demon Hunter, Barbarian, Wizard, those got the best builds for this season. Then it's like everything else, which is the Witchdoctor, the Crusader, and the Necromancer have like the weakest sets. Those are probably the three classes you probably don't want to play as, because they have the weakest starter builds for this season, which is unfortunate. But they had like really powerful ones last season, so I could see why they weren't allowing that way. But really, if you decide that you're going Witchdoctor, I say just grind with this to get Mundanuga and then swap. And I'll cover Mundanuga in the future. In terms of plans for this channel, like I said before, we're covering all the Season 24 armors. The only ones that we have left for the starter builds to go through is, let's see, Liliana build that we haven't done yet. And we haven't done the Shadow set. So those are going to be the two there. Then I'm going to look for, in my comments and stuff, of previous comments from previous seasons, pre-video, of things that people have requested and want to have me take a look at. And then I will kind of go through that list and put out videos subsequently for those things. Now, since we're getting into August, when we get into August, Diablo 3 content is going to be 3 times a week still for the month of August. However, we're kind of prepping for Diablo season, or Diablo 2 Resurrected. As I mentioned before, Diablo 2 Resurrected will be coming to the channel when it's released in September. I will be playing it on the Nintendo Switch platform. I opted not to get it on the PC platform, even though I obviously have a PC, a gaming PC, and can run it and everything just fine. I'm going to play on the Nintendo Switch platform because Nintendo Switch platform, I can play offline all the time. And there's a kind of one of these gray areas of whether or not Diablo 2 is going to let you play offline, or if it's going to let you play offline but require you having to check every once in a while back in with the internet connection just to play the game. So I think it's more in my benefit to play it on the Nintendo Switch. I was kind of more interested in playing it ironically on the Switch than the PC, if that makes any sense to you. So I'll be playing Diablo 2 Resurrected on Nintendo Switch, and then I will be covering guides for Diablo 2 Resurrected on the Nintendo Switch when it comes out. I might change my mind before then, but that's kind of the game plan then. So that's what September's going to look like. I'm going to kind of gauge what's going to happen for Season 25 of Diablo, if we do get a Season 25 of Diablo 3. which I'd be surprised. I think kind of this is like the last hurrah, maybe, of Diablo 3, where then maybe Diablo 2 is going to kind of take over, but I don't know. We don't really know necessarily all the logistics as to what Blizzard is planning to do with Diablo 2 Resurrected, if they're going to try to have like seasonal journey and whatnot for that, if they're just going to keep it really how it was like the original one, and there's going to be... But it's going to be interesting, because Diablo 2 is a loved game. Everybody kind of loves it. It's a great game, so it'd be interesting. But we'll see where that leaves us in September with Diablo free content. But for now, we're going to continue to support it throughout the remainder of the season, and then play by ear by then as to whether we continue to do Diablo 3 and then Diablo 2 content, or vice versa. Obviously, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see, if you want me to go straight just to Diablo 2, or continue to do Diablo 3 on top of Diablo 2. I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot more Switch players playing Diablo 3 in the future, maybe those who pick up Diablo 2 and never played Diablo 3, and maybe vice versa. So I'm expecting that people are still going to kind of want to know how to do things in Diablo 3. So as long as there's still interest in it, definitely I'll continue to do those videos, because that's kind of really what people kind of know me for on Dreadscape Gaming at this point, right? Alright, Rift Guardian, same strategies before. Piranhas, Locus Swarm, Firebats. When you have 10 stacks of Soul Harvest, you pretty much will implode it significantly fast, thanks to Bane of the Stricken and Bane of the Trap. I'm going to identify some of these things to drop it, so I can pick up some of the early loot. I already can tell on silhouettes what certain things are. That's just, when you play this much Diablo 3, that's generally what tends to happen, so that's kind of that. And it's kind of interesting in that regard. Alright, let's see here. Let's see that. What is this? Blackthorn, one of the worst set armors you could possibly see. Let's drop that. Alright, let's pick up some of this other loot. I'm trying to pick it all up so I can just then identify. Can we pick up the rest of it? No, we can't. Alright, so let's identify some more stuff here. Almost there. Alright, Rakov's Glass of Life. Let's identify here. Custodian's Riskguard. Let's drop that. Alright, let's identify here. Alright, Thing of the Deep. Let's drop that as well. And let's pick these two things up. Alright. Let's look here. Alright, let's level this up. And then pretty much I will be bidding you guys a fond farewell. As always, guys, like I say, I always love hearing feedback from you guys, whether it's positive or constructive, as long as it's done in a constructive feedback type of manner. So definitely make sure to leave your comments. Tell me what you think of this set. Feel free to leave your own personal builds in the description. Don't link to any other content creators' work. That was a clear time of 5 minutes 5 minutes flat clear time. With full optimization, where you're augmenting, you'd probably be able to do a little bit better. Alright, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, a like on this video is greatly appreciated, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so, as it helps the channel grow. And I will see you for the next Diablo 3 video. Till next time, guys.